Hi guys, welcome back to our Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series. Today we are going to continue working on UIs and we are going to set up one for the actual gameplay. So we're going to start off, we're going to right click, go into user interface, create a new widget. I'm going to call this one UI underscore game. Now let's open that up. Once we open that, I want to come over to the search palette. I'm going to look up a canvas panel and we're going to drop that in. Now, we are going to be wanting to add 3 different things to our UI to begin with. The first off, we are going to add information on what gun we're using. Now, just to make it look a little bit nice, I'm going to add a vertical box into the canvas panel. I'm going to get anchors. I'm going to drop it down to the bottom left, and let's just get these positions right. Now, the X I'm going to make, let's make this about 200, and the Y, let's make that about 300. And for the alignment, I am going to shift it over a bit, so I'm going to go to, let's go minus 0.5, like that, and we're going to put the alignment to about 1. Now in that vertical box we are going to put 2 text boxes, 1, 2, and for both of these I'm going to set them to fill. I'm also going to set the justification to align text center just to make them look a little bit prettier. Just for prototyping, the top one I'm just going to write gun name. Doesn't have to be too important. The bottom one I am going to write 4/5. Now, eventually these will be updating dynamically when we wire everything up, but I just want to add these in now just so we can see what things look like. I'm also going to add another text box into just the canvas panel, and if we go to anchors, I'm going to put it to the top middle. I'm going to set its size to, let's say, 240 just for fun. The first alignment I'm going to set to 0.5, which will drop it down. The next one that I'm going to do is, it's going to be -1, just so it's off the top. Justification, back to text align center. And this one here, we are actually going to get the wave number. Just going to pop that there. So that will update every time the wave gets spawned. Now, the last one that we're going to add is going to be a new element, and this is going to be called a progress bar. And I'm going to drop that into the canvas panel. We're going to use the bottom center anchor for this one. And let's just make this a nice kind of thin bar. Alignment, I'm going to set this to 0.5, and I'm going to move it up maybe right there. How's that look? Maybe a little bit higher. 5. Cool. I'm going to set compile and save. Now, the progress bar will fill up as the reload is completed. That's the plan anyway. Now that we have the basic design of the UI setup, let's go into the first person character and let's get the UI to show up. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a an event begin play event. I'm going to drag out and I'm going to create widget. Select the widget that we just made, UI game, and from the return value I'm going to drag out and I'm going to go add to viewport. Now, brilliant. Let's give that a quick little test. And as you can see, it is up on my screen. Now, let's get cracking on getting some of these values to work. Now, to begin getting everything set up, what I'm going to do is go into the UI_game. I'm going to go over to the graph, and in variables, I'm going to create a new one. And this is going to be, I'm going to call it player. And if we go to the type, we're going to make this a first person character object reference. So whatever character we are using. And I'm going to select instance editable and exposed on spawn. Now, if we go back to our first person character, and I am just going to go class none and class game, it's now going to ask for a new variable, and that is going to be for what player we're going to select. And I'm going to get this to self. This means that when we go to the UI_game, we're going to have easy access to the player itself, which means that we can get any value from the player, including things like the weapon. I'm going to go into UI_game, and I'm going to go to designer. And the first one I'm going to do is I am going to go to this here 4/5, and I am going to come over here to content and create a new binding. Now, this binding here is going to be how much ammo that we're going to have. So because we're talking about the ammo and the magazine, that's going to be in the weapon that's attached to the player. So I'm going to get the player. I'm going to select the weapon from this weapon, help if I can spell. So get weapon. And then from here, I'm going to drag out, and I'm going to magazine, wasn't it? Magazine? Oh, magazine current. Get magazine current. And then if we go to the rifle, I am going to add a new variable because I don't want it to show just how many bullets we have currently in the gun. I am going to add magazine max. I'm going to set this to an integer. I'm going to compile, save. Something that I'm actually also going to do, just while we have this here, instead of always setting it to 5, magazine max is going to be that number. So let's drag that in there. I'm going to go to magazine max, and I'm going to set the default number to 5. The good thing about how we just set it up here is that if we ever do add another gun, which, spoiler alert, we are going to do in later tutorials, we can change the maximum number of magazine, and we're always going to be able to call the custom event to set the magazine to the maximum. Now I'm going to go back into UI_game, and I'm going to teach you something else new, and this is going to be formatting this text. So if we click into here, or sorry, click here, the return value, drag out, and I'm going to type format text. Instead of dragging straight in, I'm going to click inside, and I'm going to do curly brackets, open, and I'm going to close it. And if we put any name inside this, so I'm going to do type current, for example, or you can type I'm going to type an example. It's going to allow us to connect a wildcard value, and what we can actually do here is we can drag magazine current into here. I'm just going to go compile, save just for the minute, just to show you this. Hit play. Now you can see down the bottom it says 0. If we pick up the gun, it's going to be 5. If I shoot, it's going to be 4. It's going to go down to 0. Now, you can ignore these errors here. We're going to resolve them in just a moment. But if we go back into our UI, we can actually do this a few times. So if I go / and then if I go, I'm going to call this max, just so I understand what the value names. And I'm actually going to change example to current. We can drag magazine current, and let's get the weapon magazine max. I'm going to drag that into max. And if I go compile, save, hit play, I've got 5 bullets. My maximum is 5. I can shoot. That'll go down to 0. I can then reload, and after the reload time, it's going to fill back up. Now, one thing that we are getting this error for here, it's in our get text, and I'll tell you exactly what's happening. When we start the game, our player has no weapon. So because it has no weapon, it can't get a magazine current and a magazine maximum. So what we are going to do is we're going to get the return node. We're going to copy that, paste it, and with weapon, we're going to drag out. I'm going to go is, sorry, not is current, is valid. From this get text, we're going to drag out, and then we're going to add a branch, and we're going to connect that. So if we have a weapon, we are going to get the weapon. We're going to format the text to show how many bullets we have. Otherwise, we're going to set the text to nothing. Let's hit compile and save, and that should be the first bit of our UI all done. I'm going to hit play. There's going to be no text. I'm going to pick up a gun, and then we're going to display the ammo. Now, if we go back to the UI, and we're going to look at what the next part is that we're going to update, and I'm looking at this one here, the gun name. Now, at the moment, I have no gun name for the rifle. So I'm going to go into the BP rifle, and I'm going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call this gun name. Set this to a, let's set this to a text. I'm going to compile, save, and the default name is going to be basic rifle. Sorry, my my demo code is still there. So gun name basic rifle. That's cool. Let's go into UI underscore game, and we are going to create another bind. And in our text underscore O, we have pretty much gotten all the code that we needed from the weapon. So what's great about this is let's just reuse it. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to get text 1. I'm going to drag that out, and I am going to reconnect all this. Now, instead of all this format text, I can drag out this weapon, and I can get gun name, and I'm going to bind that. I'm going to go compile, save, and that should get us our gun name. You can test that if you like. I'm going to continue the lesson. Oh, before I do, I actually need to select that binding. So, oh, I've already done that. Cool. So far, all of the information that we use to populate the UI have all been added through binding. Now, as your game gets bigger and more complex, binding may not be the greatest solution, as it can decrease the overall performance if you're using complex calculations, or if you're trying to get one value from another character which is coming from another blueprint. For example, let's look at how our UI is getting the the value for the text, for example. We're getting the player to get the weapon, and then we're going to format it. So the more chains that you add in, the more complex it is, especially if you're doing this every single tick. So for something that doesn't change very often, we might just need to create an event for it. For the wave number, for example, this is going to occur quite infrequently. It's only going to happen every time a new wave is going to start. So let's only update this when a new event, a new wave starts. So we're going to use an event. I'm going to go into graph. I am going to go into the event graph, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a custom event, and this is going to be update wave info. Now, our wave info is going to want a new input, and I am going to set this to integer, and I'm going to compile, save. Next thing that I'm going to do is go back into the designer, take the wave number here, and I'm going to set this to is a variable, and you can actually just name this now. I'm going to call this t underscore wave info, just so I know what we're talking about. Let's go back to graph, and as we've changed that to a variable, it's going to show up here. I'm going to drag out, I'm going to get it, and we're going to set text. Now, similar to how we formatted the other text, I'm going to drag out here, format text, and I'm going to set this as wave, and then curly brackets, wave num, and I'm going to drag that into there. Brilliant. Now I'm going to compile, save. One more thing while we are here. I'm going to go back into the designer, and where it says wave number, I'm going to set the text to begin with is starting soon. Brilliant. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to update wave info and pass through the integer. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into our first person character, and we're going to want to reference the UI underscore game. So to do that, I'm going to set the widget as a variable. So promote to variable, and then we're going to just connect that to the viewport. And with this new var, let's rename that as player underscore UI. Brilliant. And go to compile. I'm going to save. Now, let's go to the level blueprint. And every time we spawn the wave, we're going to get the player. Then we are going to get the widget, and then we're going to call that event. So I'm going to drag out of the spawn wave, and I'm going to get all actors of class. And the great part about if you were doing this, and let's say it was going to be multiplayer, you'd be able to get all of the player characters and then update all their UIs with the wave. So for the out actors, I am going to do a for each, and let's just do a little bit of rearranging here. Drag that out here, cool. And for each loop on the complete, drop that back into the for loop. Now for the loop body, I am sorry, let's go from the array element. So that will be for each first person character. So if we're single player, it's only going to be the one character. We're going to get the player UI. Then what we are going to do is we are going to drag out, and we are going to update the wave info. Just going to move this up just to keep it a little bit tidier. Brilliant. And we're going to need to add in the wave number. So let's go to the wave number. How's that looking? Going to compile and I'm going to save. Let's test this out. Now it says starting soon. Now wave 1, we can pick up our rifle. Everything is looking brilliant. Something I should point out is that it will go from wave 1 to 2. I didn't show it off there, but I'm sure if you're testing it that you'll be able to see it. Now I'm actually going to leave the tutorial here for the day. Now we didn't finish off that reloading, and that's because we're going to save that for our next episode, where we're actually going to be updating and improving the reload time, and we're also going to be looking at a new area, and that is going to be timers. Anyway guys, until then, stay safe, stay sound, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!